But of course, all the solo lanes already picked. As, yep, this is the epitome of a good luck ruler. Yeah, have fun on your own. We are going to dive the enemy backline. And
oh, man.
I personally really like the draft here from TWon. I think that the TF, if played respectfully and picking up a couple of early Merc threats, can do really well into the LeBlanc. The point and click CC is very important to lock her down.
So reliable.
And if you look at the T1 composition, they actually do have a lot of lockdown, right? Between the Volibear, the Leona, and the TF. I think they actually do have a lot of ways, and their poke is incredible.
Look at this sign. What is going on?
What? What are those?
I don't even know. Yeah, we're gonna pan away from. No, I don't think it was anything weird. But I mean, we're just kind of leveling up our game here with the signs. Like people are bringing iPads and.
It's getting so much better. There's a lot of interactive ones where there's like moving elements. It's crazy.
Oh, it's great. But I do kind of agree with you. I really like the T1 draft here. I think that even because on the Volibear, it's not necessarily a poke champion, but alongside of the Leona, you have really reliable engage for when you find somebody with a couple of cards or get some poke off. I think it's a really nicely well-rounded comp.
And then on the other end, I think the draft from Gen G is very much win lane, win game. It's an honest style, you know, like you should be able to find with the skirmishing power that you have, the early game spikes, the champions like Varus, and kind of the counteracting TF champion in the Galio. Find some early skirmishes, use the absurd amount of power that you have. Like Lee Sin and LeBlanc is a combo that goes so far back because the mobility, the skirmishing power, the burst damage is just really hard to play into. But if you fall behind with this Gen G composition, I think you're in a heap of trouble, because then you get outranged, and T1 can, from that point on, make your life very, very hard. So, definitely a big window for Gen G, but at the same time, T1 have a lot of levers here in the early game to pull as well.
Yeah. You know, just the point you made about falling behind, I think with the LeBlanc and the Varus, if you're ahead, you actually do have a decent amount of poke yourself.
Oh, it's disgusting.
But
yeah.
If you do fall behind, the enemies, you know, you mentioned the Merc treads, there's going to be a lot of different items defensively that T1 can build that kind of negate that damage, and then they can just do more poke and do what you do better. So I think it's very important, as you mentioned, Gen G have to kind of win lane here if they do want to be on good standing going into the mid game. But we'll see if we get there.
And we do see Faker going for Resolve second, meaning that he will both have more pressure if the LeBlanc does decide to roam. And bone planing is just really nice. I think if you get some defensive itemization, it just makes your life in lane so much easier, and it means that you can actually have some pressure. Also interesting, Cuz going for the stopwatch. I actually hope this is a Zhonya's second Volibear. I love that build.
I mean,
and actually, no, I actually think it's really, really good. Like,
yeah,
I'm not. It sounds silly, but like you have with the amount of AP scaling that you have, plus I don't have to tell you how good.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm laughing. I'm like, trust me, you already sold this to me. Like, if more people had stopwatches, I think it would be even better. But only so many people can go inspiration, I suppose. It's just such a good item right now.
Yeah, there's a reason why we see 5 Zhonya's build in the LPL, even on Lethality Varus, which by all intents and purposes shouldn't be able to use it. Nice level 2 hit there.
Yeah. Zig's kind of sad if you miss your bouncing bomb. There were a couple of things. I actually play a lot of Ziggs myself. There were a couple of things I wanted to see changed, which was the ult speed, which actually did get changed, and also the radius of the Q. But I feel like if that got increased, might be a little bit too oppressive.
Yeah,
we're seeing, you know, first picked here in the LCK, might be a little bit much.
He's also already getting nerfed. Like, he got nerfed on live, right? Because they're like, actually, maybe it's a bit much. Because the thing with Ziggs is that I think it's really good for the mana it's healthy when the champion is viable, but him being first pickable is not something that should be the case, as this is exactly what you should be looking for.
A little bit obvious here, but it's not going to matter. Faker will just flash away. As Faker seemed like he had a decent idea that that was a possibility, but he still had to use his flash to get away from that one. As Cuz is going to get the first scuttle. When Faker backing, probably Clid will be able to pick up that bottom one.
Yeah, with the bot side prio as well. Not really any way there. And this is of course expected. The early game is a lot stronger for the Galio and the Varus.
Oh. He saw him.
He did.
Nicely done by Jonah Strong, our observer, to show us off on that play. I was going to say that timing was almost exactly perfect, but Rascal with the good sense to get some vision down and spot him out.
And I don't know if, I assume Cuz also knows that he's been spotted. And Clid immediately adjusts his pathing and goes towards top side. Now, that should have been seen by Cuz if he was paying attention.
Yeah. Clid has played 47 games of Lee Sin. Probably his most played here at this point. Obviously playing it a ton in the past, but now with Lee Sin very flexible. We're seeing it more on the junglers once again.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey that Lee Sin went through, right? Because people want Emax Lee just because his laning was so oppressive. Then, of course, in this patch, his E got nerfed considerably, so there's a lot less consistent damage. And then people are like, wait, the current itemization is actually really, really... We can just play him jungle again. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, sure. Because it's something that you also see with the Zinza, where the strength of the current itemization of Gore Drinker combined with Hysterics and the amount of survivability provides means that champions that historically have had horrible scaling, Lee is a good example of this, and as I mentioned, Zin as well, now are fine into the mid to late game. You can still skirmish, you can still get a lot done. As that's some impressive looking win rates across the board here, honestly.
Oh man, that shock blast hit. I mean, he was pretty close to being in range. Kana definitely putting on the pressure here. I feel like Rascal is handling it relatively well, given the lane matchup. Not falling too far behind just yet. But you can see already kind of the pressure that that lane does allow you to put on. And that's the other thing about this, is that Gen G, they're trying to win this lane, but it's not going to be easy when you're going up against a Jace, at least in the top side of the map.
No, and this is the one matchup that, you're right, we didn't really talk about, but obviously Jace, one of the reasons why you pick him, I don't think picking him blind is ever a good call, but as a counter pick into these type of melee matchups, even a lane as oppressive as Viego, it's quite good. And previous Viego would have probably been fine because he had an absurd amount of sustain on minion waves. That is not the case anymore, and Kana also gone for the Conqueror here. Phase Rush, of course, a little bit safer when you want to try and kite away from champions like Viego or if Lee comes to visit you. But Conqueror in longer trades means that Rascal is like gonna have a really, really rough time. It's not a very interactive pattern if Jace can decide the tempo in that matchup, but Gen G, not to be scared, use their bot and mid lane prio to pick themselves up at the free Drake.
Yeah, you say it's free, it really is in every sense of the word. There was no way that T1 were going to challenge that one, especially Faker doesn't even have his flash after the gank that happened earlier, so no hope for that one. As Clid is down here in the bottom side, but he's spotted as he does come around. So far, the junglers, outside of taking that one objective, are basically just farming out their jungles. Nothing really too interesting there, as Keria with the Volibear nearby is trying to exert some pressure on this Tri-Brush, and we'll get the ward down once again.
They know. Keria's posturing like that and Clid isn't in the area, or Cuz rather isn't in the area, like, no way we're going for that one. And as T1, this is still fine. There's no cause for alarm just yet. You have a lot of pressure in the top lane. That matchup is playing itself out very, very good.
Here we go. Rascal has his flash, but is that going to be enough as the stun will come in? The burst damage from the two players of T1 will be enough, just barely. Faker going to be able to pick that one up as Kana had to get out with the turret aggro. That is how you use one of those winning lane matchups.
And the heal was still available, right? Like, Faker also had a heal there in case this did go sideways. And it's really well played, because what T1 does there is they take the knowledge that Clid is on the bot side, so Clid showing on the bot side ward to clear that vision, without there really being any possibility for him to get anything done. Once he realizes that Cuz is there, immediately gets converted by T1 in a play on the top side. And this is exactly the type of plays that I want to see from T1. I think that in straight-up skirmishes, at this point in the game, you're at a bit of a disadvantage because of how much burst there is available for Gen G. However, cross-map plays are hard to answer. Life is really the only one that can easily answer those, and he is not in the general vicinity at that point in time. Now, this is greedy, though, from Cuz. Needs to really respect the fact that Life is in the area.
Yeah, you can see the mid lane right now is not really in a good spot. But take a look at this. Rascal just going to face check down here. He flashes away. And he will just barely be able to dash with his ult range as well, but that was really dangerous. As here we go, Keria just gonna stave off the pressure there. And the teleport's coming in now that they got Rascal out of the fight. They say this objective should be ours.
And everyone is ready. Keria not level 6 just yet. Gen.G looking to want to contest it, but without Rascal, I don't know if you really can. Nice poke landing though.
Yeah, just a little bit, but at the end of the day, we do see Clid up on the top side, just flirting with the idea of a kick. Okay, here we go. Just gonna get Kana totally out of position, and down he will go. That's only the one kill, and it's traded back by Gumayusi. Ends T1 pick up the Rift Herald, so they kind of laugh their way to the bank as Ziggs casually does 1,800 damage.
Risky play from Canada, but in the end it does pay off. With Gumayusi untouched, he can throw bombs to his hard extent. And more importantly, as you pointed out, because of that overextension from Rascal, walking, basically face tracking that brush, even despite lackluster execution from T1 in the topside play, they still get more than enough pressure. This, however, as we pointed out, very cleanly executed. You have the location of the entirety of the Gen.G bot side. There's no teleport available. Freest play of your life. Looks a little bit scary there with the Heartbreaker, but again, there is still teleport available. Now, Kana, he doesn't need to go for this. This is not necessary at all. Nicely executed from Clid, but then the combination of Faker as well as the final bomb coming through from Guma.
So casual. Just like the bomb was just passing by and happened to explode in his face.
You know, it's just it's the
that's
fadeaway bomb.
That is peak Ziggs gameplay right there, okay? That's just what you do. Gumayusi is having a ball right now. Even though, you know, the lane might have been not great. I mean, he was just basically throwing bombs into turret, and he was never under any pressure.
Is the equivalence of when Carf is like someone is low and you press R and you don't kill them, but you just kill a completely unrelated person? Like, wait, what?
Yeah. As you're farming Krugs, it's like, oh, okay.
I guess I'll take that.
Get the 2 stacks on your Dark Seal and go along your way farming the jungle.
Yeah. And yeah, Gen.G, as we pointed out, falling behind with this composition is kind of a death sentence. Now, if you are able to stack up some Drakes, you will feel a lot more comfortable, and the amount of burst that this composition is available means that for the foreseeable future, they will still be able to take objectives and contest fights if they get vision and then execute someone. However, T1 thus far have been playing very respectful of this pick potential that is available, besides Kana obviously overextending into a very angry Lee Sin. But look at the shadowing here as well, because we'll see BDD there.
BDD pretty confident to at least get some poke down, trying to save that ward for now. And now with Lee Sin over here, they could even look to make a play if T1 do want to stick around. Clid still hanging around the top side, and BDD showing himself there on the vision in the river, it looks like, as again, Ziggs just casually dropping bombs on the bottom lane.
Yeah, this is the reason why I don't like the Varus into this composition, because I feel like as ruler, like, what do you do? You're an immobile AD carry, and Ziggs, even in lane, can just throw bombs, and there's not really that much you can do against it, let alone when there's more pressure, as dive being set up on the top side. Teleport available for BDD.
Yeah, we also got the Galio running up to the top side. T1, I mean, they're on vision. This is very obvious if they do try to force this, as Keria is going to get chained up here, and T1 smartly will back away, knowing that the response will be there in time. Just a little bit of pressure coming out here. Gumayusi not really down on the bottom side, as it looks like he wanted to rotate. They're trying to pressure here for the Rift Herald to get some value on the already pretty low turret up on the top side. And they'll just be able to get those plates, but not much else.
Really want the first turret bot. And Gen.G, they read that play from T1, rotate everyone. But then T1 on their end also recognize, okay, we don't know where life is. BDD is missing. Let's not go in on this play, even though they hit Keria very nicely there. In the end, opting not to go for that. Clearly the right call, as it would have been an absolute disaster and could have turned their lead into a deficit again. However, now, as T1, you pick up a couple of extra plates. Your bot lane is feeling very happy with Guma not being threatened whatsoever. Your gold lead on top is looking peachy. Only lane where you're behind is mid, which, it's TF.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. He'll want a couple of items, like an Everfrost first, and then the Rapid Fire Cannon, of course. Unless he wants to, go ahead and go for that Zhonya's. But he has the stopwatch, as this is just becoming a consistent thing. Nothing that the Varus can really do except try to poke himself, but he doesn't quite have the wave clear. And that's saying a lot, because Varus has a good amount, but it is Ziggs after all.
And this one you can still give up. I don't think you need to. As T1, you can try and rotate Kana down, but Kana really wants to just get that topside turret. That's really what he's looking for. Plates do go down, so won't be as much gold as it could have been. But yeah, with that back from Rascal, you know that turret is gone. There's nothing that he can really do. Also has to respect the threat of a faker play. And now, first turtle going over T1, extending his gold. I wouldn't even mind if they gave it this dragon. Just make sure that from here on out you play it out cleanly. And that should not be a big problem, because we're 14, 15 minutes in, and it's still only the second dragon for Gen G.
Yeah. I feel like the Mountain Drake does get some decent value in this game on both sides, but as you mentioned, you don't really have to, go crazy over that dragon if you are T1, especially given the map state here. They have decent vision in their own jungle, but not really enough to push over to the rivers. So this one will just go over to Gen G. We will have an Infernal Soul, which will be pretty insane for the two teams we have going up against each other.
While I agree, it's also hard to think of, what's a scenario where you're like, oh no, I'm not Infernal Soul.
Well,
yeah, I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
But it's not very common. Oh, Rascal.
Yeah, he's okay. Even Kana's here, and oh yeah, there's of course a bear on the other side, and he has ultimate with red buff. You're just not getting away from that one as T1 commit 3 to pick up, again, a pretty free kill up on the top side.
T1 playing this composition beautifully. It's just really, really well executed across the board, Make use of the pressure that Faker has. He's been involved in most of the plays that have been happening. Kana, even though he got over-eager a little bit at one point, has been building up a consistent lead in this matchup. And I think going into the mid to late game as Gen G with a deficit like this is a really, really rough look. Because, as pointed out, 100-0 potential is always going to be there with how respectful they're playing right now, though.
Imagine playing Varus in this game. We said it in the big ban, and we're just seeing it in action here. Especially because Gen G are behind, at least on gold.
I know the Sivir isn't a good champion, but honestly, I would have rather seen that, because at least then you can spell shield the Ziggs ult. Because now, what do you do here as ruler? It just feels so bad.
Yeah.
And you can't fold him for it either.
He should have played Morgana.
Wow.
You like that?
I do, yeah. That would have been disgusting.
Get another awesome dude in the bot lane. We're just going back to, what was it, 2018?
Oh, God.
Back when that was meta. I mean, we're slowly reverting to it with the amount of Varuses I see just go into games and be like, well, I just can't play the game. What are champions that could have played this game? Sivir, Morgana. How many of them are there?
Well, normally, I actually think that the Swain bot lane is one that into the Gen G composition would have been very good. Of course, the problem is, if you pick Swain into the T1 composition, you're very sad, so... Carrier?
Yeah, Carrier is...
That's the flash.
Gonna flash away. Takes away some engage potential, but... Well, I mean, he's not gonna have flash for the next Infernal Drake, and they definitely want to fight over that one, so... It is actually a nice thing for Gen G to pick up here at this point in time. Just a little thing. We might not see any action until, maybe Ruler shows his face again in the mid lane. Or anywhere else where he's not allowed to be, which is anywhere on the map.
That's the interesting... I don't even think that the T1 composition is as good as a lot of compositions that we have seen, where it's like, we're gonna kill Ruler, in between tier 1, tier 2. Because the real issue with the T1 composition is that when they're doing well, you shouldn't really die, because what happens is you just get poked down and you're like, well, I guess we're just going to give this up. And that happens with everything. And that's a big problem, because we talked about the Gen G composition. Well, the pick potential is really, really good, even at this point in the game, even with the deficit that they're on currently.
Oh boy, Insta Cleanse comes out and he still loses 70% of his health, so no longer does Varus remain. They're going to have those cooldowns ready for the next Infernal fight. It's actually perfectly timed as they get that turret pretty much for free with the help of course, Shelly. And that's just going to be that objective. They'll back away, buy some items for the Infernal fight.
Just really clean. Not really a lot to be said. I'm really impressed with how T1 has been playing her, because a lot of the issues that we identified in their games seems to have been at least figured out partially in this specific game, right? There's a bit more activity on the map. They're reading Gen G well. They're making plays. The real test is going to come up in about 50 seconds, because this Drake, as you pointed out, this one you cannot give up. The previous ones were fine, but now you need to go for a setup, you need to take control of that river, and you need to make sure that your poke lands before the fight starts, because if Gen G go in, delete someone, you're in for a rough one. However, look in those inventories. Actually deleting anyone but Gumayusi, who should not be near deletion range, is real hard. It's a lot of stopwatches.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3-1 in favor of T1. I was actually counting them subconsciously as we were... no. But yeah, we have the teleport coming in here. T1 are getting ready. The Chains of Corruption now down, as that's a nice amount of poke here from Ruler. Again, you know, this is the one thing that Ruler can do, is bars things from very far away. As long as T1 don't find him out here on the map with any opportunity to engage, he should be okay. As a nice amount of poke already coming out here from Faker. The Drake now alive. Ruler's pretty safe, actually, over that wall for now.
It's doing really well. The health bars are actually low. 2 teleports available, so you can teleport him back here, but again, you need this one as T1, and with all the poke from Ruler rather doing so much work, it's a good start of the fight, but it's not quite enough yet to scare off T1.
Yeah. You got to see some more of this poke from T1 landing. The shock blasts haven't really been there. Only a couple of bombs have really landed. As here we go. Faker going up on the top side. Nice taunt here from Light. As that bomb from Ziggs doesn't get much done. And actually, Cousin Keria are extremely low at this point. They still have to stick around, but Light, he's kind of stuck in the pit. Thankfully, he has his trusty stopwatch to keep him alive, and he will flash away. And you can see the health bar so low actually on both sides now, as finally some of that poke from T1 is coming in. Cuz way on the backside there wants to get a smite down just for some health at this point in time. That's how close this fight is. As even getting that shield as well. Coming on over, and I think T1 have done a decent job of bullying them out, but now Keria is going to need an arrow to the back. And it is just on a knife's edge right now. BDD trying to do his part.
Mana getting low.
Yeah, at some point you just run out. That's a nice engage, and actually could. He gets the kill onto the dragon, and BDD is going to feast on some low health bars here. He gets the one, but he's going to trade his life for it as Gumayusi. That is one sad Ziggs. As Ruler and Rascal on the run here as well. I think T1 in a good spot to take both of them down at least. As Rascal also going to get flanked here and go down. But at the end of the day, Gen G did pick up that Infernal Drake, which is more than worth its weight in gold.
And now it just means as T1, you are still given the opportunity to take over this game. And that's what you need to do. It is, in the end, after what feels like a minute-long stalemate in the middle of the river, the mana bar's getting low. Kaz has to, like, walk to a camp just to smite, W it. But in the end, it is Gen G that picks up the Drake. Really nicely done by Clid. However, the fight on the back foot of this is lost as T1 has a lot more firepower available. And this is really where you see the payoff of their entire early game, really. As well as the fact that Ruler also had no mana left. Ultimate still available if it does, which is the freest pickup ever. And as a whole, I think it's worth it for T1 if they can snowball in the next 3 minutes. And that's a big one. They need to now be proactive. Take over the entire jungle. Don't ever let Gen G get even close to that next Drake. And you need to keep that up from here on out. Like, this has become a really hard timer because Gen G's win condition in these fights is finding someone and blowing them up. We saw that poke is also really, really strong even at this point in the game. And if you get an Infernal to add to that, like, you're never getting to a point where you're feeling safe as T1.
That is very true. As we saw the goal difference biggest in the top lane, no surprise there, as the Jace is immensely fed at this point in time, even as a GA, on top of everything else. So at some point, the Jace can kind of just go ham and be okay with that because he has this GA to come back to life. As you mentioned, T1, they really are just putting the pressure on.
Love it.
And that is what they need to do. They don't even care about BDD in the top side. They're like, yeah, whatever, dude. We're going to push your inhibitor turrets. We're going to try to take more on the map. Faker can deal with you. And they're in a pretty good spot right now. They're going to back now.
And even though we saw him make one very big, obvious mistake, right, where he went for Clid, got kicked in, Kana has had a really good game thus far. He's been able to extend his lead. Surely he's been giving a lot of attention, but previously for T1, we've seen games where Kana has been giving a lot of attention by Cuz and or Faker, and it then not working out. However, in that last team fight, Kana hit the shots he needed to hit. There was 1 or 2 misses at pivotal moments, which feels bad, but he was still the one with the most damage done in that fight, and that type of conversion is exactly what T1 needs. They want to maintain the pressure here. Now, I want to see them get prio in those side lanes. You do still have Faker available with the Destiny Gate. But they were maybe going to be, maybe Life had his ultimate available, was maybe looking for that, but engaging on carry never feels good.
Yeah. Here are the damage numbers. You
Yep.
see that ruler is doing his part. You know, for all the memes, I mean, he was hitting a lot of arrows before the fight did get started, and if he hadn't, then it would have been a much more lopsided kind of fight. So BD and Ruler getting their own share of poke in. And Rascal at this point, he doesn't really want to go around the enemies. He just wants to split push that bottom side, it looks like, for now.
Okay, backs come through here, very nice. Synchronized backs as T1. Pick up as much gold, as much power as you can. Rotate towards that bot side, clear out your jungle, and get into the enemy bot side jungle, right? Like, just make sure with Destiny and Gate, the pressure that you have with the Ziggs ultimate as well, Gen.G shouldn't be able to go for a cross-map Baron play. You need to get this Drake as T1.
They definitely do. And Gen.G kind of have a lot of room to work with when it does come to Drakes, of course. You don't want to give a lot of Infernals over to the side of T1 by any means, but you don't necessarily have to lose the game over just one Drake. So we'll see how they handle this, as I think this is going to look a lot like the last fight. Ruler's in the same spot. You see Carry is trying to counter that this time. As the bomb comes out, it's a nice amount of poke to already start here, but we got 35 seconds until this Drake actually spawns. It's just going to be another one of these poke fests. We'll see who comes out ahead this time around. Gen.G might consider some kind of maneuver here instead of getting just poked out to death, as it's going to be T1 actually that go for the maneuver, as that is the insta-cleanse out of Ruler. BDD over the wall. He's just going to get the GA by himself away from Kana. And Ruler's going to live here. We got the kick for disengage, and BDD is still full health. Look at the amount of damage he's getting done, but he can't do it all alone here, as Ruler now trying to kite back. And you can see that T1, they say no more poke out of this LeBlanc. We just got to engage and take them out. And that they will. They're going to secure the fight and the Drake here, as Clid is down.
Immaculately played there by BDD, but it's not enough. And this is where T1 reaps the rewards of how well they've been playing this early to mid game. Because it is the fact that Kana has that GA available, right? Because if he doesn't, then that fight might just be lost. Like, Kana dies, your most fed member is gone, BDD is able to go back in without the threat of a Jace, and you're in really deep trouble. And it is Life looking for an engage, but it's Faker over the wall. I didn't see how the fight was starting, and then it's just CC chain, right? There's nothing you can do. As you pointed out, beautiful cleanse by Ruler at this point, kind of what we've been expecting of him. As the unfortunate reality is that he will not be able to do a lot more in this fight, still doing as much as he possibly can to try and take down people from across the map. Carry out will in the very end go down thanks to that perfectly timed arrow, but the main thing is Drake gets taken, and that is something that T1 had to do and did. So that's check number 1. Oh, man.
Can't avoid those anymore.
I see a happy Ziggs right beside you. It's like,
it's like finally it actually does something. I mean,
and ooh, interesting build choice from Kaze, because I personally would have liked to see this on yes. Can still happen.
Yeah, I mean, you have your stopwatch. So you don't have to build it just yet.
Still possible, but the Warmox is really cool into the Gen.G comp, because your task as Kaz here is, as we saw there, just lock someone down, allow Guma and Kana to do damage, or assist Faker with at least poking someone down aggressively. So, and the Warmox means that you can freely zone out the LeBlanc, catch arrows from Ruler and then just stay in the backline for a little bit. You'll sustain back up and you'll be able to head in yet again. And now the entirety of T1 really nicely shadowing Kana, allowing him to put on a lot of pressure. Baron taking is a possibility here though, but with the poke of Gen.G, something that as T1 you need to be a little bit careful about. That turn is amazing though.
It really is, and they've got Kerio waiting here in the wings, cuz no flash available, but he does have his ult, and you can see BDD's not landing that poke just yet. Red side Varus, still a thing, able to do a little bit of damage, but here we go, here's that turn, and poor Light is just not able to get much done in this game, as what is that damage? Varus still a thing, apparently. Really nice satchel on a Rascal, and he's going in, and BDD gets the huge assassination. So many low health bars here on the side of Gen.G, but they will definitely stop the Baron from happening.
Unexpected damage there because Cuz still had the stopwatch available. BDD again, this LeBlanc is such a menace and it's what's keeping Gen.G into this game. Because if you don't get the blow up there, Cuz is just going to sustain back up, and then TWon suddenly has tempo advantage because they can move back into your jungle. However, now, as Gen.G, you pick up a kill and you might not get an objective, but you do regain a lot of control. As I want to see what happens to Cuz here, because that was a ridiculous amount of damage. This time, Light also able to get away. The bomb not getting too. Wow. Okay, it is Ruler.
It's just Varus.
Man, and then this as well. Oh my god, the chain connect mid's ultimate.
Yeah.
And that's why he dies. That makes you so sad.
Yeah. I feel like both teams are playing this really well for their positions. You know, Gen.G from behind getting some insane picks. T1, I feel like they're doing all the right things in terms of their decisions, but some of these plays, unfortunate. They're still in a good spot at this point in time with a pretty nice gold lead here, and they're picking up some Drakes. Gumayusi maybe now the one who has to be scared, as we see the damage now is just insane. That's going to be the stopwatch blown, and he's not in a good spot. There's no peel for the T1 jungler. And down he will go once again, and Gen.G are taking back control of this game.
I don't think they can they're going to go for it anyway. Guma doesn't have teleport available, but with the poke available for T1, they should still maybe try and contest here, but the damage from Gen.G is terrifying. Are they really going to give this up? Because if you give up this Baron...
It's rough.
Well, actually contesting for the Inferno is also going to be almost impossible.
The Destiny helps out so much in keeping them alive, and Ruler's going to have to flash away. Look at the poke that they have. As the turn comes in, and Kana is just going to blow up the Lee Sin. Down he goes, and even BDD is going to be going down here. They thought they had him, but it was actually the clone. And now Ruler's all alone with no flash. He has the cleanse, and look at this, putting on the moves, but unfortunately, he is all alone, and the TPs are coming in. T1's trying to end the game.
That was a 50-50 call there from Kana trying to get the final kill. And now, the death times are, I think, relatively short. I don't actually know if you can actually end the game with how low your health bars are. T1, they want to go for it. I don't think it's going to work out. Ruler is there.
Oh, they're going.
God.
They're
God. Soul's online as well.
Yeah, they have a Ziggs, and that's some insane dodging coming out from Faker. And look at this, just flashing forward. Faker's going to go into his audience. They just got to hit the Nexus here, and I think they will have enough. There it will be, 32 minutes. And T1 are going to shut this game down before it gets too out of hand. We were already off the rails, but they